Hello, everyone. Sorry for the delay this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where you're located. We're currently experiencing a little bit of technical difficulty, but bear with us. We'll have our guest with us in just a moment. In the meantime, I wanted to let you know it is International Enthusiasm Week, and I'm embracing the spirit of the week, and I hope everyone's having a great day and everyone is excited about today's edition of Green Builder Media's Impact Series, Game Changers in Sustainability. Today we're going to be featuring Steve Nygren, who is the developer of Serenbe, which is a 1,000-acre sustainable community outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Now, today's webinar would not be possible without the support of our enthusiastic sponsors, and those sponsors are BASF. BASF is a leader in the construction industry. With more than 600 products, serving 75 construction product categories, BASF offers the broadest portfolio of products used directly on construction sites or integrated into other products to improve the performance of construction projects. BASF is also a global leader in sustainability and corporate social responsibility, committed to constant improvements in safety, protection of health, and environmental conservation. Bio-based insulation. Bio-based insulation spray polyurethane products help to lessen the environmental impact of residential and commercial structures by sealing and insulating in one step. Bio-based insulation integrates rapidly renewable ingredients as a replacement for a portion of the petroleum in many of their insulation products without hindering the performance, and has replaced chemical blowing agents with water. DuPont. DuPont puts science to work by creating sustainable solutions essential to a better, safer, healthier life for people everywhere. DuPont is focused on dynamic science that generates real-world solutions. That's why DuPont is at the forefront of building science with brands you depend on like Tyvek, Sentry Glass, Corian Solid Surfaces, Zodiac Quartz Surfaces, and Kevlar. And the Green Builder Coalition. The Green Builder Coalition proudly announces a new membership level for just $50. For more information on this incredibly affordable resource, please visit www.greenbuildercoalition.org/join. I'm Mike Collignan. I'm the Executive Director of the Green Builder Coalition. Today I'm going to be the host and the moderator for today's webinar. Now, once we get these technical difficulties ironed out, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions for our guest. To do so, simply use the small box at the bottom of the Q&A. Now, we may take them during the conversation today, but if not, I'll pose them to Steve during the Q&A time set aside near the end of the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and introduce Steve, even though he hasn't quite arrived yet, to build the enthusiasm for today's event. In 2000, Steve led the effort to create the Chattahoochee Hills Country Alliance to bring together landowners, developers, and conservationists to find a mutually agreed upon solution for balanced growth. After 2 years of design work and public meetings, a land use plan was adopted to preserve 70% of the 40,000 acres on the edge of Atlanta while providing 20% more housing than the traditional suburban sprawl would yield. In 2004, the Nygrens began development of Serenbe to show how one can interlace agriculture activity with a range of housing choices mixed with shops, galleries, 3 restaurants, and a 19-room inn located in the historic farm compound. Serenbe is a true family operation. Steve's daughter, Garney, serves as director of operations at Serenbe. His daughter, Kara, operates Serenbe Camp, and his daughter, Quinn, works at the inn on weekends. Steve has been active in many civic and charitable organizations. The list includes serving as chairman of the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau for 2 years, a 3-year term on the Georgia Governor's Environmental Advisory Council, and this year he's a member of the Ray Anderson Foundation Advisory Board. And so I believe Steve has just joined us.
Good afternoon. Sorry for the delay there. Few technicalities.
That's all right. Better late than never. We're excited to have you with us, sir.
Thank you. Looking forward to the conversation.
All right. So I wanted to start off because I'm not sure how many people are familiar with the Serenbe development. So I kind of want to let you kind of give us a little bit of an intro and say, do you think Serenbe represents a new way of looking at suburbia?
Well, I hope it's a new way. Um, because I think the way we have been developing in the last 30, 40 years has certainly developed some problems. And so we are looking at an alternative on how to preserve a major part of the land, at the same time putting more density in the part that's developed, and some of the side benefits or infrastructure costs are much less. And what we're finding is the sense of community is very high, and people are constantly reminiscing of how it must have been, or those that share how it was 40 and 50 years ago when we lived in smaller, more dense pods.
Now, I read in your bio there that you've got a community there that's looking to preserve 70% of the green space. Serenbe itself aims to preserve 70%, or basically 700 acres, which conversely means it's going to only utilize approximately 300 acres. Yet it's going to house as many, if not more, people than a traditional neighborhood, which Serenbe claims would use approximately 800 acres to accomplish the same thing. So my question is, are you good at Tetris or fitting luggage into the trunk of your car? Because it sounds to me like you've unlocked some sort of configuration secret that others need to know about.
It's actually not a secret, and what you should know is we're one community. So we have changed the zoning and created a city of 33,000 acres. And the zoning regulations require that anything you develop has to show this ratio of preservation versus development. And there's no real secrets to it. It's simply that we do not have sprawling neighborhoods or large lots. It's no different than we developed towns 50 years ago or more. So if you go into any of your towns across America, you see smaller lots with the houses pulled closer to the street. And it's very much in our entire land planning, we use the English village system. Phil Tabb led our effort, and he has his doctorate on the English village system. And so it's living tighter, and it's conducting a lot of your life more in public areas. So we have, at Serenbe alone, we have 3 restaurants that you can walk to, the art galleries, a lot of public spaces. And what our residents say is where they lived, they considered that they were home when they walked in the front door to their house. But at Serenbe, they consider their home when they drive in the front entrance to the community.
Okay. Real quickly, Serenbe, where does the word come from?
We bought the acreage for a weekend getaway when we were living in the center of the city, so that we could take our 3 small daughters out. And then as we transitioned and decided to move there full time, my wife decided we needed a name for the property. And we found that when we were in nature, we simply slowed down to be, and when we did that, we found a lot of the serenity that we were searching for. And so she put those words together, serenity and be, and thus we are now Serenbe.
Okay, fantastic. Um, do you want to take the opportunity to kind of look at or talk to the audience about the one of the visuals that we have up on the screen, the Serenbe versus the late 20th century development? Um, I think people will be really interested. I've seen it, but I think a lot of our audience would be interested in seeing um, what you've got here in this nice comparison resource here.
Yeah, we developed this chart, and it's an easy comparison to look at. And the picture on the left there that shows balanced growth, that's an aerial of our first hamlet. Now it looks a little disjointed now because up at the top is where our commercial area will go, and that's the larger scale commercial. We have a lot of live workshops with art galleries and clothing boutiques. But in that green area will be a hotel that we're designing now and an office building and higher level. But you can see from the air that every house backs up in this picture to the woods. If you can see more in the distance, there's another horseshoe or omega, and half of those houses back up to the organic farm. And off to, you can see a little bit of the wildflower meadow peeking in there on the one side. So every house at Serenbe, you come out your front door and you're in a community, a street that has activity. And if you go out your back door, you're really in nature. So this design really allows to have the best of both. And you can imagine how infrastructures would be much less. Now there's approximately the same number of people in both the balanced growth picture and the sprawl. In the sprawl, you do have larger lots the way it is spread out. With our area, going to the next slide down, we tried to minimize or pretend that we actually didn't have graders. And so we tried to work with the natural topography, which is rolling hills, and not disturb the trees, even though they may not be specimen trees. They give height, and the idea that we were introducing the built structures into the environment versus the mass grading that became common, and then you start completely over with your landscaping.
Okay. Um, I was on your site and it talked about how there's almost 200 people living in Serenbe now. Is that a current number?
Gosh, we need to update that if it says that. We're about 400 now.
Okay, 400. Okay. How many homes does that equate to then, roughly? Is that
We're at about 140 homes, and we're rapidly building now. We have 5 builders on property and a lot of construction activity.
what's the target range for, and not exact number obviously, but a range of total residents? What do you view that for Serenbe?
Well, on our, and think of Serenbe as a neighborhood. So at
Mhm.
Serenbe, we will have somewhere probably close to 3,000 people. And then in the greater area, which is our town, which the connecting hamlets and villages, will have at least 100,000.
Okay. So obviously there are still must be built. You mentioned 5 builders. Is that a set of builders that people can choose from, or can people bring in their own builder, provided the design principles of the development are followed?
Absolutely. We have builders that are taking down now for the first time since 2007 some blocks of lots to do spec homes. And so we have homes you can walk through to see, and it ranges from in the 200,000s up to the 700,000 in the spec homes that are available now. And then we have custom builders. So if someone buys a lot, they can bring in their own architect and their own builder. They have to be approved, and all of our builders have to be Earthcraft certified, which is the certification here in Georgia in the southeast for residential housing.
Now that price point, I mean, that would seem to encompass most of the home buying market, wouldn't you agree?
Well, we believe so, and that's what we think. We have something for everyone, and you'll see from some of our pictures, while the basic framework is historical, the southern vernacular for this area, we encourage a variety of architecture within the community. We restrict only one architecture style per house, but you'll see contemporary sitting next to very traditional next to a Victorian when you drive through the streets, which makes it look like a authentic community versus a planned development with one set of guidelines.
I, I tell you what, I wish other architectural review committees had such an enlightened viewpoint, because you see these exactly what you're talking about, these planned neighborhoods where every house looks exactly the same and almost looks like they just rolled off a line in a factory somewhere.
Yes, yes. So people are surprised when they hear that we broke ground in 2004 and the first people occupied in 2005, because it has that authenticity, and then by the taller trees, it doesn't really look like it's been developed in this decade.
Yeah, there are a lot of mature trees, which I think is a great selling point no matter where you're at, just having mature trees. Uh, Certainly in your development, that's the case. I think on the macro, I think people have finally started to come around to that concept of, hey, let's not just clear cut. Wouldn't you say?
I would hope so. I would hope so.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the other aspects of Serenbe. There's a 30-acre farm within the community.
That's right. And in fact, if we want to use this slide as a guideline, we can just go through and we'll get to the farms, I think, in the second sheet. So if you look at the, the the next piece down, that shows you the smaller houses. So we encourage smaller houses at Serenbe versus the big mansions. And here again, I said because people are actually living in the community much more than just in their house.
Now, I have my in-laws are farmers, and so I have a little bit of exposure to the operations of a farm. What methods are you using for planting and harvesting? Is it machines or is it assisted by animals?
No, I mean we do have the tractors and the various things, but we are a certified organic farm, and I think organic is a personal choice. Local small scale farming is the big thing. It also operates as a teaching farm, and so we have interns. We have a house that we have an intern program. The farmer and her husband live right there on the property. And so there's machines, but it's certainly more the small scale. There's a lot of handwork that goes into the weeding and what have
Okay. And so what does the farm grow, and are animals a part of the farm? Are there animals being raised there too, or how's this?
you.
Tell us
There
a little more
are
about
the we have chickens, but we do not have a lot of protein. Interestingly, one of the couples that bought a house that backed up to the farm, after they lived there a year, they started inquiring, and they have now bought 100 acres just 2 miles from us, so they can drive from the community up to their farm, and they have sheep, and so they slaughter them, so we have local lamb, and last year they opened a beautiful creamery, so they're now producing great sheep's cheese. That's Manyfold Farms, and you'll start to see that if you're in the Atlanta area. There's a couple of the high-end restaurants and food stores are doing it. They've also they're getting into some chickens, and they've just started hogs so they can feed the way. So they're really investigating and experimenting with the full cycle of farming, uh, dealing mostly with the aspects of protein. So it's a variety of farmers, and what we'll be announcing very soon a complete program working with the University of Georgia and the Extension Service to really develop a complete mentoring and fostering program to bring the interns that are attracted to Serenbe and our various schools in the state interested in agriculture. We're pairing them with available land and setting up a co-op for equipment. So some of the equipment that a small-scale farmer couldn't buy, as a cooperative, we can buy that and have a lease-out program.
Now, because the homes don't have a lot of lot or lawn, I'm guessing probably don't see a lot of uh, homegrown gardens.
There are some.
Oh, okay.
Uh, it's interesting that some people have space that they do a small garden. Paige, our farmer, has said there are lots, and they're happy to have anyone have their lot. They have to make sure that they work with Herbie so that they don't jeopardize her certification. But she also has volunteer days, and we find everyone likes the idea of volunteering, and then they could get a reduction in the cost of their CSA, the Support Sustainable Agriculture. Um, and so it's fun to, if you're going away, you don't have to worry about if someone's watering the garden or weeding it. And then you can show up on Tuesday evenings to pick up your share of the harvest for that week. And that 2-hour period turns into also a great socializing area. We have 120 families that are members of our CSA program.
I want to interject a question from James, if I could. He's one of our audience members. You were talking before about the grading and footprint. He's curious to know if that compromises accessibility criteria for the disabled uh, to travel to or even within the site.
Uh, no, we have parking. We have handicap spaces. It's really no different than the older small towns uh, were. So if and we can make special accommodations if we know someone's coming, depending on what their handicap needs might be.
I'm glad you mentioned the word parking because another one of our audience members, Katrina, was going to ask where do you park your car?
Well, there's plenty of places to park, and where we're a little different, I think, is we do not talk about it's the most convenient place possibly. Uh, so parking might be a block away. We have one section that most of our real estate people thought would never sell, and it's townhouses around a courtyard. But you park about a block away into a wooded lot. Those all sold very quickly because one side of your townhouse opens into the woods with balconies overlooking Bird's Nest, and you come out your front door and you're in this very urban courtyard with a wonderful fountain, and it's very European. So while that may not be for everyone, we haven't been really developing housing for that segment of the people that want a more European lifestyle that's more pedestrian-centered versus vehicular.
I did want to talk about transportation. I wanted to bring a topic up, so if I can use that opportunity to segue to that now. Um, is is Serenbe a place where, in addition to cars, are people using like golf carts to get around in there?
They're using golf carts, they're using bicycles,
Right.
and they're walking.
What? What is
What?
that?
Imagine. And so, uh, there's a whole group that are challenging one another, and they compare as the blue-eyed daisy over coffee on Monday morning. How many miles everyone walked? Um, and it's amazing for if you're in New York, you don't think of walking many blocks. And in more of our communities, we have a tendency to get in a car to drive so little as a block. And so it's very pedestrian oriented. We have if there are any new urbanists listening in, uh, they find our winding streets not the pattern that most are used to, but because we do not have a vehicular grid, it's a winding road, but we have a pedestrian grid, which is one of the big reasons for the grid, so that you can cross over at many places through the woods and get many places in a third or a half the distance than if you were following the road or in your car.
Um, so obviously, you've got a variety of different transportation modes being used. Um, I'll go back to the car for just a moment. Are there any electric car charging stations in the community?
We do. We have right outside our general store, Ferns, is in a Bosch electric charging station.
Awesome. That's great. I also wanted to ask in regards to the kind of more the topic of mobility, is there any data on how many residents utilize the services of the community versus going outside the development? I'm thinking about retail.
Well, I think we, we need to start getting data on that, and we're just getting to the residential size that we can. But our grocery store basically handles almost everything that you would normally need. And Tammy says, as long as you'll buy it, she'll stock it if you'll let her know what it is. She has deliveries of fresh fish on certain days, so people put their orders in for their fresh fish. We have a rancher raises cattle and slaughters them, and so we have cattle or fresh beef. Saturday market has many of those things. And if someone's addicted to or needs the big boxes, there's a big box 12 to 14 miles in 5 directions from us. So that's all available, but people find that they're organizing their trips there, and they can stay in the community and take care of most of their needs. We have a salon, a beauty salon that does, cuts people's hair, and in fact, people drive in for that. We have the health spa, clothing, and the 3 restaurants. We have at least one restaurant open all 3 meal periods, 7 days a week.
I was going to say there are a lot of things that are already available, and I think are planning. There's also plans to have even more available later on. The 3 different pods that you have, and at least according to the site, there was one that was still being designed.
That's right. We have 2 of the Omegas, all the infrastructure in. One is the housing is mostly all built out, and that's the one I said that we're now designing the center, which will be a hotel, offices, and then where we're doing all the residential building is what we call Grange. That has less commercial. We have the 4 stores down there now and the Montessori school. And then the third, which is in design, will be where our assisted living, memory care, and a lot of the services for the senior populations. We'll have adult-only condominiums that are for 55 and over, and things like that, doctor's offices, and we're hoping to break ground on that the latter part of 2014.
That's great, and I'm glad you brought up schools because that was another topic I was gonna mention was there's already a preschool and there's a kindergarten and elementary school in Serenbe, and now you've received word that a new school will be added in about 11 months.
That's right. Our charter school. In fact, I have stepped out of a meeting on the charter school to participate here this afternoon. We'll be opening a charter school that will not be exactly on the Serenbe property. It'll be connected by paths, and that will open in August of 14. Perkins and Will is designing their very environmental, highest LEED certified classroom. On nice days, one entire room of the classroom will open into nature.
I I was struck by how much of a family endeavor Serenbe was or is. What was your family's reaction when you first embarked on this journey?
Well, we stepped into it, I must say. As I mentioned, we were living in the middle of the city. I had a group of restaurants, 34 restaurants in 8 states. And we were on what I call treadmill of life when our children were 3, 5, and 7. And so an afternoon drive led us to become very enamored with nature. And we bought property, and the weekend trips led to me selling my company. We sold our big house in the city, and I retired. And so we had 7 years that I put in gardens, cut trails, bought more land. And then in 2000, we became concerned that urban sprawl was actually going to destroy our paradise. So it was the entire family sort of evolved from being in the center of the city to enjoying the wonderful things that nature brings, and yet we're 30 to 40 minutes from the city, so it's like not like we ventured to the wilderness. Um, and so then when it became a reactionary to protect what we had, the family was very supportive. And so we led the effort to change the zoning by bringing all of our neighbors together to talk about the threats as well as the opportunity. Um, and so they were, they were still in high school, and our oldest was getting ready to go to college. And so they were supportive of just a community-wide effort. And then when we decided that we would take some of our land to really develop the first community to demonstrate how this could be, because people were having a hard time imagining townhouses and shops with residents above them in the live works, because this was all open rolling forests and pastures. Um, and so, of course, this was so different than what anyone was really doing, we could not fund it. And the family came together, and I told them that I had their college education in a separate fund, but we were going to have to jeopardize everything we had in our lifestyle to move forward. And as a family, they voted to move forward.
Um, I, I see this development method, and it's fascinating. I mean, you have, so much green space, but yet the population potential is greater, like we talked about early on. What would you like to say to our builder and developer audience members who might be interested in this kind of development method in their community?
Well, I think the big thing to think about is how fast public perceptions uh, and demand and the market's changing. In 2000 and 2002 and 4, uh, the concepts I was talking about many times seemed foreign. The idea of carbon neutral, certified buildings. Uh, Many people had not heard of LEED. And now, just a little late, more than a decade later, uh, most of your Fortune 500 companies are requiring a certified building to lease or purchase because they understand the economics of the energy cost savings. They understand that certified buildings, because of a lot of the requirements of life, they're having fewer absentee days, people calling in sick and what have you. And so they're seeing the benefit. And I believe that as more options are there for the residential, that the market's going to follow that. And so if you're not aware of these options, you could be building obsolete product. Uh, Maybe some of the buyers today aren't totally aware, but I can assure you the Millennium Group coming up that are the future buyers for resale, they're all very aware of this. And so I don't think this is just a fad or a bubble. This is a trend we're moving to. We, last year, Bosch, for one of their programs, because they have cross-marketing of 7 of their divisions, wanted to show how they could integrate their various products into one house. They built that house. It was open to the public. We had 12,000 people tour that house in a 7-week period. The house was then sold, and I just a couple weeks ago, the resident shared their power bills for this year, and since January, their highest power bill was $13.
Wow.
It's as people start to see their options, and it's not cost prohibitive to plan a community or build houses uh, that are environmental, and it just has a huge difference on quality of life and the economics of your monthly bills.
Now that's $13 a month utility bill on average, or that was the max they saw throughout the entire year?
That was the max. He had a couple months that were actually net zero, that they had actually produced more energy in their solar than they were using. And the thing is, it's not a huge solar array, but because it's the way it was built, it has geothermal. It's all tied to the hot water, which is also a dehumidifier. That's all vented in a certain way around the solar panels. And the solar crew said that if they had been installing on a normal 18,000 square foot house, which is what this is, 3 bedrooms, they would have had to put 3 times the solar. But because of this house being so efficient, they only had to put a third of the solar that they would normally have to put on just a house built with normal practices.
Okay. And that was a 1,800 square foot, not an 18,000 square foot house, right?
Sorry, 1,800. Yes.
That'd be even more amazing. Uh, I certainly want to encourage our audience member to send in questions on the Q&A box, and we'll take those as we go here. We do have a question from James. James was asking before about the accessibility. Um, he wants to know, I mean, like the picture that we have on the screen down there shows a house that's on a sloping lot. Um, a situation like that would make wheelchair access a lot more complicated from the street or the driveway. Um, do you have a lot of sloping lots within Serenbe? Obviously now, there's other pictures of other homes that way, and obviously I think the design of the original home probably comes somewhat from the original owner. So I'm guessing universal design principles aren't necessarily being utilized throughout.
That is correct. The house that you were referring to, that picture, that was the uh, HGTV Green Home for 2012 that had a big national campaign on it. That was their design, their architect, and the various competitions. That particular house is not handicap accessible. Uh, Now, if you go to the picture right above that, the white one, that's a picture of the Bosch model house, which from the back is handicap accessible. The drive comes right up to the back, and so that's slight slope, but the back brings you right in. So it just depends on the lot. There's great variety in the topo. And as I mentioned, to be more environmental, we tried not to grade it, and so we built within the uh, yeah, topo of the property.
Okay. Um, I had a question from Michelle. She wants to know uh, what would Serenbe residents say to the audience about their living experience in the development?
Well, it's interesting. People decide to move to Serenbe for various reasons, and we have a huge age range. We have equal numbers of homeowners in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, and a few in their 20s and a few in their 80s. And so they come for various reasons, the arts, the nature, their children, what have you. Anyone that's been there 3 months or more and we ask them what the best thing is, it's a unanimous answer, and it's community. Uh, so the way we have designed it, people are on their front porches. You have to walk down to central areas to get your mail at the mailboxes. They're great restaurants, so you're not getting in your car to go places. And so people are on the street, and when you're on the street, you get to know your neighbors. And when people pull in, one thing people notice is children out and about, and there's not an obvious, parents just uh, watching over them so closely because they're neighbors on their front porches, and kids have a great feeling of freedom, similar to the way many people grew up 40, 50 years ago.
I had a question. You were talking about the walking. We were talking about walking earlier in different transportation modes. So it's a somewhat tongue-in-cheek question, but are there pedometer contests that occur? You said people are sitting around having a common meal together and they're talking a lot. I would think that there seems to be a very friendly sense of competition with the utility bills that you talked about earlier. Are there different kind of competitions that you see sprouting up sometimes?
Oh, absolutely, and it's all friendly competition. We haven't started trophies or prizes as such, so it's just friendly comparisons. But absolutely, now there's the handy little things that can measure how many miles you've walked, and everyone's having a great time with it. And while we have a gym on property, everyone finds that walking really does a lot of things that people were going to the gym for.
We also have a couple more questions from James, and we appreciate his questions. With the power bills we talked about earlier, the $13 max, does the photovoltaic system feed back into the grid, or is it localized for the residents?
No, it is connected to the grid, so the house is connected to the grid. So any surplus feeds back into the grid, and they have uh, net metering. So if he uses more the next day, that averages out. I'm not sure if that resident has contracted with the utility to actually sell them. I'm not sure that his usage is that great that he's gone to that effort.
Okay, and James also has a question about the geothermal. Do you happen offhand to know the length of the loops that you use and the drilling depth?
It depends. It's different on the house. We have some that are in a lake, and then others are boreholes, and so it varies from where on the property they might be connected.
Question from Katrina about how are the paths in the woods and the streets lit? What's the method of lighting for that?
They are only the paths that are near some of the commercial are lit. Otherwise, it's just like a path through nature. If it's night, you can take a flashlight. It is crushed granite, most of them. It's very reflective, so if it's a moonlight at all, it reflects wonderfully there. So we try many of these things. We try to be more natural and allowing everyone to take self-responsibility versus having those things all laid out.
Okay. James wants to know if Serenbe is affiliated with Southface in any way.
Well, they are certainly a huge resource for us. We are a Earthcraft certified house, which is the program within Southface, and we are one of their few communities. So we have a very close relationship with Southface, and they're a wonderful resource.
I'm not sure if James is local to your area or not, but he's curious if you're using Georgia Power or the Southern Company.
Well, we are in a EMC, so Greystone is our provider, and of course Southern Company, which is the overall provider to the EMC.
Okay. James says he's from Enterprise, Alabama. So he also want to know though, are you guys harvesting wind for turbine generation to share with the grid? Is there any kind
We
of wind farm there?
we are not in all estimates. Wind isn't one of the big things, and that's a good question because so much of the discussion in America is about what kind of power. And I think we need a lot more discussion about conserving and not being a heavy demander. For instance, if 25% of the residential units in America were converted to geothermal, it's my understanding we have enough power plants in existence for the next 20 years. Um, and you look at the house where they had a $13 power bill. That's a matter about building better and conserving. And that's really the conversation we need to be having a lot more of. And there's a lot of products out there, a lot of ways to really cut down on our consumption.
Yeah, I agree with you on the and on the power side too. I mean, the amount of solar that falls on the earth. Um, if we did a better job at harvesting that, I think it would go a long way to pushing that 20-year window that you just referenced for new power plants even further down the road.
It's amazing, and if you build the house correctly, your solar installation isn't that expensive, and that's becoming more reasonable. And I know some neighborhoods think they're ugly, and so some homeowner association put regulations about solar. But if you look at that little cottage, white cottage, it's the Bosch house, and there's the houses, two or three next to it are all solar. And I love driving people down the street, and they say, "Oh, it's so charming, isn't it beautiful?" And then there's a certain angle that I can point back, and you can see some of the solar. And I said, "Did you even notice the solar?" And no, hardly anyone notices the solar when they drive down the street, unless you point it out and really look for it.
I must apologize. I didn't do that research before we talked today to know if Georgia has such a law, but I live in Illinois where there's a state law that says that no HOA can overrule, or I'm sorry, yeah, no HOA can overrule your own personal rights to solar,
That's
and
good.
so that's a prohibited thing, but it's on a state level, and
That's right. And many places that are fighting it. So I don't believe that law's in Georgia. I'm not positive though, but
but there's an opportunity there.
that's right.
um, Last question, and again, I'll make one last call out for more questions from our audience if they have any. I know I have one last question. Uh, you're involved with the Ray Anderson Foundation, and
Yeah.
my my understanding is that you just recently hosted an event uh, for or I'm sorry, not the Ray Anderson Foundation. You recently hosted an event for the foundation at Serenbe.
That is correct.
Can you
Uh,
talk a little bit about your work there?
Uh, certainly, Ray and his family had been friends for years, long before he read Paul Hawken's book and became one of the great environmental leaders for our country. And unfortunately, Ray passed away 2 years ago. But when we decided we were going to do something to protect the land and to do something environmental, Ray was the first person I called, and we had dinner. And in September of 2000, Ray hosted 23 of what he considered the environmental thinkers of the time. And Rocky Mountain Institute and Stephen Strong with solar and John Todd with wastewater and all sorts of wonderful people came to Serenbe to talk about the issues. And so Ray has been an integral part of our journey to do something more environmentally responsible. And when Ray left a great deal of his estate to his foundation, which is run by his two daughters, and now his grandson, John Lanier, has just taken the position of executive director of that foundation. And they decided that they were to highlight Ray's work and the many people he touched, that they would have a celebration called Ray Day on his birthday, or the nearest Sunday to his birthday, which will be the last Sunday in July each year. And it will be a celebration of his work, and everyone that he has been involved with was invited to have a display, and they provided 10 by 10 tents and it was just a fabulous afternoon of reflection and hope on all the great environmental things so many people are doing all over the country.
The last question we have here, James want to know, there's a caption above your photo, and he want to know what the full caption read. I can't see it, so I don't know.
Gosh, in my screen, I don't see a caption either.
Okay. I believe it has some, he was sharing with me, it says Ladams Low.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure which picture. So that would be the Scoms de Scoffier. And this is a huge food event that happens on the grounds of Serenbe the first Sunday in November each year. And it raises money. La Danse Scoffier is an association of females involved in the culinary arts from any levels. And they provide scholarships to women that are going to culinary school. They also now have included the Georgia Organics in the fundraising. And we have the celebrity chefs, Metro Atlanta, and some of the breweries and wine tasting, and about 2,000 people have a wonderful dinner on the grounds on the first Sunday afternoon of every November.
Okay. Any parting thoughts, Steve, for the audience?
The big thing, and the reason we're talking more, is that there are options for all of us to build and live more responsibly. And there are places like Serenbe trying to do that all over, and I think there's a lot of very positive points. And the more people investigate, the more people see that there are options. And if you have an opportunity to come to Serenbe, please come, because we're trying to show options, whether it's stormwater, wastewater, energy, growing your food, sense of community, including the arts. There are a lot of options, and our people are healthier. We are hoping to start documenting that. We know they're happier. Just talk to anybody. And why shouldn't we all live like that? Why are we a country with so many people on antidepressants and so many diseases? And we hope that we're a beacon of hope for people to try harder to live better.
Well, thank you, Steve, for your time. I very much appreciate it. I also wanted to take one more opportunity to thank our sponsors, BASF, Bio-Based Insulation, DuPont, and the Green Builder Coalition. And I also want to thank all of our audience for joining us today. Thank you for the wonderful questions that you sent in to us. Finally, thank you again, Steve, for taking the time to share your vision of Serenbe with us today.
Thank you for your interest, and do come see us.
Well, we hope you'll join us next time for another edition of the Impact Series, Game Changers in Sustainability. Take care and have an enthusiastic day.